Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. This is a very special conversation that I'm having with my girl, Moneybag Jazzy. Jazzy is a FGLI Latina from Jersey who broke into hedge funds and eventually became a VC guru. So if you're looking to break into hedge funds or you're looking for really how you can use the art of hustle to become a VC guru, tap in. This is a great conversation. Share with somebody special. Don't forget to like. Enjoy.
I was too scared.
How much money were you making?
That makes my family too much. Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. Wharton was my number one school. And JP Morgan recruited me. This Latina that invested my money, that lost all my money.
Yeah.
When I started in VC, I was like, how do I get in? How do I network? Where do I go? I would pick up the phone and it'll be a president from Latam because was the only girl in 14 traders on Wall Street.
You ever wonder how people end up in money-making careers that run the modern economy? Some people stumble upon these life-changing opportunities, and some people find out when it's too late, if they ever find out, and neither should be the case. So we're putting the careers of the business landscape into perspective, one conversation at a time. Jazzy, thank you so much for joining me. How you feeling?
Excited and so happy to be here.
I know, me too. We're about to have a good discussion. We're going to talk about some career things, school, business school, a little bit of VC. Why do you think this conversation is important?
Oh God, it's important in so many ways. We've seen what's happening right now with folks trying to get their MBAs, a lot of programs backing away from, making certain commitments to certain programs. Just the type of the numbers changing quite a bit and underrepresented minorities getting into spaces like, the Ivy MBA. So it's important in a lot of ways. But two, just getting the word out there. Yeah. Trying to hopefully inspire others to potentially take that leap of faith. Yeah.
Exposure leads to expansion. And you mentioned getting the information out there. What are some key elements about your upbringing that make this conversation important? The things that we need to know about you to give context to why you're here.
I mean, I am first gen. First person in my family to go to college and then to get an MBA. My parents, come from very humble beginnings, and so am I. So for me, that journey has been a bit more steep than the usual type. So we could definitely get into a little bit of my background there, but just in general, it is a quite unique story for most, but not a unique story for immigrants like me. So I think that's why it's important to talk about.
Yeah. Can you sort of unpack your distance travel to Rutgers? Well, we're going to talk about Wharton. We're going to talk about the MBA program, but how'd you get to Rutgers and sort of talk about some of the hurdles that you had to overcome?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. Okay. Went to a public school, Eastside High School. Okay. It was probably ranked top, probably the lowest, not top, lowest 8% in the nation when it comes to reading and mathematics. Wow. Only 12% of folks that graduated from this school will go to a 4-year college. So just from there, I had to really work hard to figure out how do I get to schools, because I knew with my parents just talking to me every single day, you gotta make it to school. However, honey, you gotta pay yourself. We won't be able to help. So I just started talking to people, talking to my guidance counselor. I found this program called EOF. It's basically a program for underrepresented minorities that want to go into school that have quite, some good grades. They show a lot of potential. I applied and basically I said, I'm going to apply to all of these colleges. Whoever gives me a full ride, I'll go there. Rutgers ended up being one of them. And it was mostly because I wanted to be close to home. It's a state school. I didn't want to be more than 30 minutes away from my parents, because I've been supporting them. So basically, it was my number one choice from the beginning. I do have to say, though, that I didn't know about Ivy Leagues. I didn't know that there was, I came here when I was 12 years old. I didn't know the difference between Penn State and UPenn. Like that for me, again, never been exposed to. So when I applied, I was like, oh, this is a state school. They're giving me all this money. I'm going to go there.
Yeah. Man, same situation here. I didn't know about the Ivy Leagues. I barely knew about the undergrad that I went to. So now you're a VC guru in my eyes, right? How did you first get exposed to finance? Was that at Rutgers, or was that during your pre-undergrad program that helped you get into school?
Yeah. So it was Rutgers. Okay. I got introduced. Well, I basically walked into this organization for the Economic Society for school. They were giving out free cookies. So I was like, hey, let me go get some free snacks. My professor ended up being in this location, and I was taking an intro class for econ with him. And he's like, hey, Jossy, like, you seem to be doing pretty well in school, and specifically in this class, like, are you interested? Yeah. And it ended up really exposing me to, folks in the business world. I ended up doing a little bit of research, like, what is this all about? And one of my friends said, hey, I know this guy who's looking for an intern at a hedge fund. I didn't know what a hedge fund was. Yeah. So it turns out he was the partner at this firm, was also Ecuadorian. He was also a first-gen Latino who's gone into school and ended up, really being successful in his career. And he took me under his wing. Yeah. Basically, from day one that he met me, he mentored me. He gave me this is the type of questions that you need to study up on, because, hey, I'm not doing that interview. The rest of the partners are. You need to prepare. So I had to put in the work. Yeah. Basically, working at a hedge fund, ended up getting the internship, was the only girl in 14 traders on Wall Street. Wow. And I had to learn everything from absolutely scratch, waking up at 4 a.m, making the train at 5, being the first one in, the last one out. And I kept working with them for, my senior year. And that's how that's when I started seeing money flow. Yeah. I was like, okay, I need to follow the money. And I was like, I need to stay in this. This is my lane. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's that immigrant hustle. Mm-hmm. It's something that we all know about. So it sounds like you had a mentor and a sponsor sort of see your work ethic, then expose you to what you could do with that work ethic. Are there any other conversations while we're talking about your upbringing? Are there things mentioned? There's probably a lot, right? But what's one thing that you can think of that you wish you talked about more, and that you want other families who are going to see this, you want them to talk about to their kids more about this whole journey? Yeah. I mean, you gotta tap to communities. Like, it is about the hustle and it is that immigrant mindset. But for me, I leaned on my community. Like, I found organizations like Alpha, which has a bunch of chapters in basically every state in the country. If you're a parent, find these non-for-profit organizations. They have resources. They will expose your kids to these finance professionals. And a lot of them want to help out. Like, I want to be one of them. I'm already mentoring quite a couple of folks myself, especially when it comes to venture capital. And we can talk about that a little later. But I want to say there are resources out there. You just gotta, put yourself out there and go find them, do a little bit of non-for-profit work with these organizations. And I think they can open the doors for quite a lot, which is what happened to me. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being transparent about your journey too. So let's talk a little bit about your career after undergrad, after Rutgers. You talked about your how you got exposed to finance a little bit. Can you talk about the recruiting process? Yeah. So, I actually got an offer to stay at the hedge fund, but I was too scared. I was like, I can't be, like, I'm the only woman here. I'm the only Latina here. I'm the youngest one in organization, like, this is not for me. This is for people with like a lot of money. Like, you need to have connections. Like, you need to basically have already a very established network to be in these spaces. And I was like, okay, let me go for something safe. I've heard about Vanguard. I've heard about, my parents' 401ks were there. I'm like, I went for the name instead of, I genuinely chickened out because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that actually people are they go to all these institutions to end up at a hedge fund. Ended up going to Vanguard. I basically moved to Philly by myself, but I miss my parents too much. I miss my family too much. So I was here for a very short period of time. And JP Morgan recruited me. Yeah. I got a LinkedIn notification saying if I wanted to come in and work for the LATAM private banking sector. And, just said, well, JP Morgan is a pretty big bank, probably one of the biggest private banking organizations in the country. So, and it meant I was going to be close to my parents. Yeah. So, did that. And I was there for 6.5, almost 7 years. I really built my career and climbed that corporate ladder while I was at JP Morgan. From there, it's history. I moved. Do you want me to go into like how I ended up in VC, because it's quite a little bit of a journey. I want to pause on finance for a bit. Can you sort of talk about your time at JP Morgan? I know you were there for a while. You had multiple roles. Could you just choose one of them and sort of give us a brief look into the day in the life of you at JP Morgan? Yeah, for sure. So early on, I was just doing the hustle work, working the long hours, but I really want to focus kind of towards the end of my career at JP Morgan, because that's really where I got exposed to alternative assets, the private market, which is how I ended up in VC. But basically, I took a role as a regional marketer for Latin America. Yeah. So I was covering all of sponsoring and marketing for LATAM. With private wealth management. So a day in the life would be me getting on a plane, flying to Chile for 10 hours, working in events for like a sponsorship that JP Morgan was doing. And I was the only one, from my team there, trying to get business in. So fundraising, that was like my end goal, was to get, liquid assets into our company. And then the next morning, taking another, 10-hour flight back, and then do all the strategic work so we can close that deal. Yeah. So that was something that was typical while I was at JP Morgan. And that's how I ended up learning about startups. I ended up, when I was going to meet all these clients, they will tell me, oh, my son has a company that he started that's doing X, Y, Z, or we have a non-for-profit who's trying to help bring clean water into like this sector in Latin America. So things I was like, okay, tech seems to be moving quite a lot. Yeah. Startups are actually getting these checks from my clients who are quite big. And, my clients in Latin America are the top 1% of LATAM, which was also like very mind blowing. I would pick up the phone and it'll be a president from LATAM, because I needed a confirmation to move funds around. So I felt like a tiny little fish in like this insane, massive world, but I was doing it. Yeah. Imposter syndrome was real. I'm very excited to kind of like tell you how that led me into DC.
No, that's awesome. So you were fresh out of undergrad and you had this role where you were on the phone with presidents, essentially, asking them where to put their money or advising them on where to put their money.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, we had a team of advisors where they knew kind of what they wanted to do. I was mostly there to execute it, but yes, it was up to me to make sure that it was executed appropriately. So the good thing about being at a big corporation and I'm telling you this because I don't want to scare people away.
Yeah.
Like, am I ready for this? Like, JP Morgan they're not going to make you do anything that it's going to risk a client. So you have a whole team of people like making sure that this client is in, you know, in a really well positioned. So we had the bankers, we had, you know, the investors, we had the reps, we had the marketers, like you have a whole team. So which is why I was able to do it.
Okay.
But yes, it was quite scary, especially at the beginning.
Yeah. I have a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
How much money were you making?
Oof. Things have changed quite a bit. This was, you know, I started at JP Morgan in 2013.
Okay.
By the time, you know, I was there for 3 years as an analyst associate before I moved to senior associate. So I've heard now, by the way, that analysts are starting at 100K and just across multiple banks. I was not there. Like mine's definitely below that. But no, there's money there and there's movement there. And I think that's what attracted me to business. For me, going back to my parents and our humble beginnings, they are my North Star. They were my North Star back then. And for me, it's like, how can I help us financially be well off, but to be able to open the doors and help other folks financially that are in the same world as me. So that, you know, seeing all this money move, it's like, okay, this is where I need to be and I need to like learn that and I need to, you know, stop being scared and stop having this imposter syndrome, which, you know, it's a new term that I kind of started feeling towards my end of the career at JP Morgan. Yeah.
It's like this duality that you're balancing. It's like you want to do well in your career for your family, right? Your partner, your kids, but then also the reality that if you don't maximize your potential, you won't be able to help your parents who actually paved the way for you, right? It's a different game that we're playing. But no, that's why this conversation is important. So can you sort of speak about the moment, you grazed over it a bit, but the moment you realize, okay, finance isn't the end goal. This is actually a stepping stone. I need to move here.
Yeah. So, basically the startup world, the entrepreneurial route started being quite big. This was 2020, COVID had hit and a lot of companies started being launched because of COVID. People had to, you know, do work differently. Zoom became huge. Nobody knew about Zoom, like, or at least at JP, no one ever worked like virtually unless you were traveling. I had to work once a month virtually just to make sure that our systems work because we had like, you know, certain guidelines for compliance that we had to do, but this was never a thing. So then I started seeing all these startups popping up at the moment and I was like, okay, like, am I in the right place or am I like what's going on here? Two, I moved, like you said, from role to role at JP Morgan, but for some reason I had a feeling that there was always this ceiling. And I was like, you know, I need to make VP. I need to, you know, make ED. So how, like, what's going on here? I started looking at people's backgrounds and everyone had gone into all this, like, you know, very big Ivy schools. So the seed started there. And one of my close colleagues and close friend was another Latino. He ended up going to work for this startup. And I was like, okay, he would never leave JP Morgan. He's one of the smartest people I know. There's no way he's leaving for something that's risky. So I called him up and I was like, what's the deal with this startup that you left and why did you leave? And he's like, Jossy, like, you need to come here. They just got their first check. I'm like, what do you mean? What is their first check? Like, what is this Series A, Series B? Like, he basically educated me. He was like, okay, this is how it works. Like, these are the rounds. This is basically an early round. I think it's going to be big. The second an opening, like, was posted for this role, he called me and he's like, you need to apply. I'm like, and it was a compliance role. I'm like, I don't know anything about compliance, but I have all of these certifications, all of these licenses. I'm just going to apply, even though if it's for an analyst role. I've already had 8 years on my belt, and this was a 1 to 3 year experience role.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll do it. I'm gonna take the jump and I'm gonna join. But I only joined with strict terms. Strict terms in my one was salary, and then 2 was title. I was like, look, I'm basically I have all of this experience. Instead of you needing to hire a senior person later on, like I can do all of this role. And I was, I convinced them. I went through 9 rounds of interviews. Yeah. And I ended up going in, launching one of their biggest lines of businesses for this startup, and they ended up getting $150 million, a check from us building. It went from a wealth management platform to a fintech company was considered, because now they had a broker dealer, and I was the one that launched this broker dealer.
That's amazing. We probably gonna blank this out. That's amazing. I definitely want you to sort of explain VC a bit to our audience. But before we do that, how did you say you had 8 years of experience before that?
Yeah. So I had 7.5.
About 7.
7.5. Yeah. Almost 8. So I made the jump, launched this line of business. The company ended up getting like a very big check size, and I ended up building. And by the time I was there for 3 years in startup world, that's like 10 years. Yeah. I was like, what do I do next?
Right.
Like, what is my, how I kind of missed my investing role at JP Morgan, to be frank, but I also love building and working with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can I blend those two like things together, those roles together? And I had already gotten exposed to a bunch of VC because I was talking to them. We were fundraising. I was building a platform for VCs. So like VCs was already like in my radar.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute, I can go into a VC that's focused on early stage investing.
Yeah.
And I can merge those two worlds that I'm like in love with.
That's awesome.
So that's how I said, okay, VC it is. And if anybody knows me, they know that once I have my mind on something, like I'm going to go get it. However, I read all of these VC's bios, every single one, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, and I was like, okay, this seems like a pattern. And I didn't think it was possible.
Why not?
To be honest, I just didn't know. I didn't have a single friend that had got into an IB for specifically their MBA. Not a single one. And then all of a sudden, like as faith, I don't know what to call it, my good friend at JP Morgan, who was the only Latina in the entire floor, so us two became quite close. We were like,
gonna stick together.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
She was like, hey, Jazzy, I have something to tell you. I got into Sloan for my MBA. Sloan is the MBA program for MIT. And I was like, what? Like, tell me everything. This is exactly what I'm trying to do now. I'm actually in my application process. So, like, she basically held my hand and told me, like, how to apply. The only other woman VC that I met had gone to Wharton. And I was like, okay, that's the school that I need to go to.
Yeah. So you're doing the research of everyone in VC. You're looking at their bios, just like all of us hustlers do. And you see a common thread, business school, right? So what was your journey like to Wharton? And sort of name any programs. You already mentioned a friend or a peer that sort of helped you get into Wharton.
Oh, yeah. So she basically, my friend made it real. It was like, okay, I know she can do it. I have a similar background as her. Maybe I can too. Yeah. And she also motivated me to do it. Then I started like looking at programs. There's this program that I found called Admit Me. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about an MBA program, please look at Admit Me. They're incredible, mostly because they're free. So it's free resources for underrepresented minorities to help them get into business school. So they help you putting a timeline together. Like, this is when you should have your essays done. This is, a consulting firm that we can give you, a couple of hours for free. And then if you want to pay, you can do it. This is basically how the application process works. And yeah, I basically started following that program to a T, made such good friends in this program because I realized it was not just me. There were so many people with my same background that were trying to do the same thing, but, with a different angle in their careers. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, the next thing you know, I hit submit in my application.
And now we're classmates.
Yes.
That's awesome. So did Admit Me introduce you to MLT as well?
So I heard about MLT through Admit Me.
Okay.
But it was already too late in the process.
Gotcha.
And I wasn't able to do it. I did not know about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's just not getting exposed to programs.
It's all good. That's what we're here for, though. So now you're no longer an applicant. You're an alum. You're a Wharton alum. Congrats. Give me one thing that you've changed your mind about since going through the MBA program.
Oof. One, it's more doable than you think.
Yeah.
Two, I was so scared about finances. I was like, how in the world am I going to pay for this program that's like $300K plus? There's ways. Yeah. And when you start meeting folks that are 5-10 years down the line, you're like, it's going to pay in tenfold. So for me, it was like, believe in yourself and know that it's going to work out. And if you're scared about finances, one, there's so many ways. There's resources, there's scholarships that you can apply to. But two, it's going to pay off tenfold. I set my end goal was VC. Like I knew that's what I wanted to do. I started doing multiple internships. I started talking to partners at these funds. I started finding out how much everybody made. Or if you exit in company, how much, what carry meant. So it's, I want to say if you're indecisive about getting into or applying to school, just know in your heart or feel it, know that you can do it. Yes. There's people, that have walked your path that are on the other side right now. And if you're scared about finances, it is something to be scary about. And it's normal. Sure. It's normal to feel that sense of, what am I doing? But sometimes you got to take a little bit of risk to get that reward. And that's basically everything in life. Yeah.
Man, you're preaching the gospel right now. I appreciate that. Before we sort of dive deep into VC, let's one more question about your journey to Wharton. Was Wharton your target school? Did you have other schools? Could you sort of unpack how that journey went and what ultimately made you choose Wharton?
Wharton was my number one school.
You hear me?
It was. I'm telling you, when I was looking at female venture capital investors, there was one woman that I knew at the time and she had gone to Wharton. And that was the reason. I'm like, okay, she said she was working at this pretty big fund called ABC, billion-dollar fund. Yeah. And she was killing it. And I was like, okay, it was the only woman VC I could look up to. And she went to Wharton. And I was like, okay, if I want to be taken seriously, I'm gonna do that. I got accepted into other programs, which were also amazing. But this mentor of mine told me, he's like, okay, Jossy, you're trying to make a decision whether you want to, go to these programs or do you want to go into Wharton. Just know this, if your investors, your LPs are playing golf and they lose a ton of money because there's always risks, especially in very early stage investments, would you rather them say, oh, there's this Latina that invested my money that lost all my money? Yeah. Or, hey, this Wharton grad MBA, but right. It's like, they're not going to embarrass themselves in front of their friends. Right. So that was kind of what did it. I was like, I want that credibility. Yeah. And I want the credibility from one of the best finance schools in the world. Exposure,
mentorship, sponsorship, all of these elements about your story is what matters. And I think these are the elements that can help close the gap. So let's get tactical about VC. Mm-hmm. First of all, what is VC? And talk about the work that you do with VC Unleash.
Yes, of course. So VC Unleash is a non-for-profit to get folks into venture capital. I met this beautiful organization right before coming into school, and a year in, I was asked to become president just because of my love and, just passion about getting folks into this world. With that being said, we educate people on what venture capital is. To answer your question, venture capital is there's multiple stages. So you can be an investor early stage or late stage. What that means is you're writing checks to entrepreneurs. So you're either writing checks for an idea or, pre-seed for an established product, which can be seed or Series A, or for a profitable company that may be ready to be acquired soon. And that's late stage. A late stage focus venture capital fund. You're working with entrepreneurs, you're helping them grow. So you're there not just to write checks, but you're there to help them operationally expand, grow, get new clients. You're there to help them network so they can meet other institutions that can either help them, whether it's, acquiring new clients or potentially get acquired, or, there's, you're basically there. You may be able to get a board seat. There's so many elements to it, but just the very, very, very basic is you're there supporting an idea and a founder or a product that is very new. So whether it's AI, whether it's, companies focused on climate tech and ag tech. So your VC may be a generalist VC, meaning you can invest in every sector, all of these different verticals that I mentioned, or you can be, a fintech focused VC. So you're only going to be investing in fintech products, which fintech is like payments or SaaS, enterprise, clean tech. You get my point.
No, I get you. So as an investor, I can either be a generalist or I can do like a niche. So just taking my background, for example, Air Force, Space Force, maybe I want to do like defense tech.
Yes.
So like my niche is I invest in defense tech or like space tech or things of that nature. And you can cut that up however you want to from whatever industry. There is a lane in it, there's a niche in it, and there is a business, there are founders who have an idea, who need not just your dollar, but your network, your skills, and your resources too. That's
exactly it. And you bring a really, really good point. It's you have a specific expertise. There's all of this expertise that think that venture capital is, there are all of these experts that think that venture capital is unattainable because they didn't fit the path of what an investor looks like. However, there's multiple paths to venture capital.
Yeah.
Yes, there is the MBA path. There's also the founder path. Let's say you founded a company and now you want to be on the other side.
Yeah.
You can do that. You want to be an operator. You come in with a very, very niche background and you can, help that company specifically invest in that specific vertical. So I've seen people from all types of, absolutely all types of backgrounds, like doctors that say, hey, I don't want to, practice anymore, but I want to go work for a fund that's focused in healthcare to build solutions for patients because they see it. So they see the need so much and they're like, okay, nobody's doing it. So I'm going to do it instead.
Wow. No, that's good information. Thank you for sharing that. So what are some other misconceptions that people have about the VC world?
Yes. So one and foremost, it's hard to break in. It's different. It's not typical, I would say. But when it comes to being hard, you just have to find your niche and figure out which lane is it that you want to take to get there.
Yeah.
Two is the money. So for some reason, pre-MBA, I was like, there's money in venture capital. Obviously, I've seen it. I worked at a startup. I saw the checks come in and I saw what you can do with those checks. But for some reason, while I was getting my MBA, I would hear there's no money in venture. Like if you go do an internship, you're not going to get paid. It's going to be very little. And, you know, you look at IB, you look at PE, you know, you look at consulting, and that's where like the majority of folks go because they know that that's, you know, a check that you're going to get and it's significant. And we know what the ranges are. But for VC, it's so hush hush that people just have these misconceptions. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. Actually, you should know that there's money in VC. Like it is a little bit risky because you're taking the risk in supporting these founders. And we know that in VC, maybe 20% of your portfolio will outperform while your others won't. Yeah. But it's still there. Right. Like, and when you hit that, your first exit or your first acquisition, like it's all going to be worth it. And if you're passionate about it, especially if you're good at your job, like it's going to be similar to any other lane that you take career-wise.
Wow. So do you have like a story or an example that you can recall that made you go, oh no, there's actually a lot of money here in VC. Yeah. We're just not talking about it.
I basically started signing up to all of these newsletters of venture capital. Strictly VC, term sheet. I can, maybe we can add a few. And I can give it to you later so we can post it. But every single day I get an email saying X company was acquired. X company was, you know, IPO'd, even though the IPO market has been a little bit slow. But these acquisitions are not like, you know, $5-10 million acquisitions. These acquisitions are 100 million, 600 million plus acquisitions. And if you're taking 20% of the company, which is the average amount for an early stage investor, that's 20% of 600 million that's just one of your companies.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So what advice did you wish you had before you pivoted from finance to VC? Something that you wish someone would have told you?
Something that I wish somebody would have told me is that network early on when it comes to venture capital, and don't just go to any VC that you know, just for the heck of going into a VC. Like find the right team, and find your homegrown advantage. So and this is something that I really, really hope people, if they can take anything away from this conversation, they want to learn about VCs, take this, find your homegrown advantage. And what that means is find your niche. How can you...
Hold on. Spam the like button. Back to the video.
And find it early on. Like basically when I started in VC, I was like, how do I get in? How do I network? Where do I go? There was so much information and so many VCs and so many sectors, but at the end of the day, it's like, how can you add to this fund and then go from there? So for me, that's, you know, I wanted to be in New Jersey. I wanted to be able to invest in my community. Yeah. There's only 2 funds that I heard about in New Jersey. One of them is the one that I'm going to go work for in next week, basically. And, you know, I was like, look, when I was interviewing with them, I said, I went to Rutgers. I live my life in New Jersey. I want to be able to invest in my own backyard. Like, I know I have a network here because I grew up here. I know the founders here. This is why I'm good for, you know, this is why I'll be good. I'll be a great investor for your firm. Yeah. And so it was a no-brainer. They're like, why take somebody, you know, with a different background if not there? So that was my homegrown advantage, because when I go to founders and I want to win a deal, and if they're from New Jersey, I can be like, hey, I'm from New Jersey myself. I know what you went through. Like, let's make this happen. Or it's a Rutgers founder. Hey, I went to Rutgers. Yeah. Like, I know, like, they do a ton in bio and healthcare. Like I was there for 4 years. Like I can maybe add a little bit and help you out. So find what makes you unique, find your niche,
Right.
and then go to the funds that have like that need that expertise, and you'll be a much, much better investor that way.
Yeah.
And it'll be also a great way to be able to win deals, because when they say, hey, do I go to this mega billion-dollar fund or do I go to with you? It may be an easier sell.
Yeah. That's awesome. What's the largest transaction you've seen?
Oof.
Just dollar amount. You don't have to say the company.
I mean, I see $200, $300 million checks like for startups that go all the time, but billion-dollar valuations. So in the billions. However, there's one and people know about it, but I was this founder was raising. Was trying to raise $1 trillion, and because of his background, he maybe didn't get that trillion, but it's getting
it was close.
It's getting some billions.
Close.
Yeah. So it all depends on your story.
Yeah,
and it all depends who you know. And venture capital is all about investing in the person. Yeah. So if you're a founder, tell your story. Yeah. Find those that would understand your story quite well, and you'll be able to get those checks. If you're an investor, find your niche so you can win those deals. Yeah.
So we talked about how to get into VC. We sort of talked about, what the day in a life sort of would look like from the finance perspective. Is there anything else about finance or VC or anything from your background that you want to speak about?
I want to say that just bringing it all back to my beginnings and why I'm doing this is that only 2% of Latinos get venture funding.
Wow.
And less than 1% for women founders are getting these checks. If you're out there and you're thinking about maybe this path, just know that it's easier to be in the table with a founder that looks like you, and it's easier for that money to flow that way. Because when you're you're an investor and you're hearing all these pitches and you see a woman come in finding a solution for women, especially, it's very hard to sell it to a group of men. Yeah. Or to somebody that has no idea what you went through or why you have so much grit. That how can you sell your grit to somebody that doesn't know much about grit? Yeah. So I want to say we need you. Yeah. We need you in spaces like this because we need to move that 1%. Yeah. Yeah. So
you want to look into your camera and say that? We need you.
We need you. No, really, like 1% is just sad. And it's not okay. And we need to follow the money if you want to follow the money, and also at the same time help uplift folks that look like us that are trying to build solutions for us. Yeah. Because what I noticed a lot is women founders are finding, startups for mothers. They're finding, Latino founders are finding companies to help, payments cross border so you can send it to your family in Latin America. So they know their market more than anyone. Yeah. Like these are the folks that we need to be backing.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Wow. So follow the dollar. We need you. Take the risk. Use your network and get exposed. So what skills did you acquire while you were in finance?
I think first and top, it's communication. Yeah. So basically being able to pick up the phone and talk to absolutely anyone and everybody, being able to fundraise. So it's a big deal. This is how you land a job. Yeah. You can either fundraise, bring money, you can help operate. So what are the skills that you need to help build that? or you can source, meaning sourcing deals. What is the next big company that may go IPO? If you're in, when I was at my time at JP Morgan, at the VC is, who is the next, hot founder that we need to invest on. So if you can have any of those three, you're guaranteed a job. So just be really, really good at least one of them. And if you're good at all three, you're golden.
Exceptional. Okay, cool. One thing I learned, this world is not really a meritocracy. Like you can get very far with just knowing the right people and being just a little above average at what you do. Whereas if you're like exceptional at what you do, but you don't know anyone, sort of a ceiling on what you can achieve. But I don't know. So we're moving towards the end here. Do you have anything else for me before we wrap up?
I mean, I just want to thank you because if I heard something like this, when I was in my journey that, I felt so alone. I had organizations and I had my one friend that had gone to get their MBA, but, it felt so unreachable and so far. And just sometimes understanding and knowing that there's folks out there that have gone through what you've gone through, it's just so important. If it wasn't for my one friend that made it to one of these elite programs, I don't think I would have ever started this process. I would have probably found a different way of doing it. And you know what? Like, I know we can do it without it because we're hustlers, because we have grit, but it would have taken much, much longer.
Yeah.
So if we can help just folks know through programs like this, through conversations, candid conversations like this, I think we can just reach so many more people and help so many folks. So honestly, just want to thank you.
Jazzy, I appreciate you. And I completely agree. I think like hard work is important, but hard work is not the catalyst to a changed life. I think exposure is the catalyst to a changed life because us coming from first gen families, it's not like we don't know people that work extremely hard, right? But what are they turning their wheels on? So exposure and smart work is just as important. So thank you for participating. This is impossible without you. Before we get you out of here, one quick question. What is one professional hot take you have?
I don't believe in jeans on Fridays.
Okay.
So basically, and this is important. Like, I've never walked into work without a blazer on. I don't care how hot it was outside. Like, I always dressed sharp for work. I don't care that I was at a startup and we were, working with engineers and in a group of 10 people. Like, no, you are coming in already at a very, disadvantage by just how you look, by being Latinos or being folks of color. Like, the last thing I want is somebody to look at me a certain way and say that, this person's wearing wrinkly clothes. Yeah. Like, no, be sharp no matter what. It doesn't matter how your, company does, things. Everyone wears a hoodie. On summer Fridays, I can just go in and whatever I want. No, like for me, if you want to be taken seriously, like dress seriously, be taken seriously. But it's also if you're meeting somebody for the first time, if an investor comes in, if a founder comes in, you want to let them know, like, hey, I'm representing you. Right. Like I am the face of this company. Even if you're an analyst starting out, doing ops, it does not matter. Like, I do not believe with jeans on Fridays. That is my hot take. Yeah. Make it a lot of shade for that.
No, man, you're not gonna get no shade from me. I remember during my internship, I came in there first day, suit and tie on. I was one of few people in the office that did that. And some people looked at me weirdly, but hey, I'm not here to play with y'all. I'm really not. And then also, Coach Prom said it best. You look good, feel good, play good, you play good, they pay good. So
exactly.
You ain't gonna get no shade on this channel.
Hit the nail.
All right, Jazzy, before we get you out of here after that not so hot take, in my opinion, what's one piece of advice that you want to leave people with?
Don't be scared to ask people for help. Especially from our backgrounds. if you don't, I didn't come to this country with folks in corporate America, you know, working at the JP Morgans, working at Vanguards, at the hedge funds. I had to knock on doors and ask people for a job, ask people for help, ask advisors to not just be mentors, be sponsors. Like, I was very forward with the people that I leaned on and asked for help. And you got to do it. Like, the worst thing that they can say, it's no. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. Like, if you don't submit that application, the likelihood of you getting accepted is zero.
Right.
So just, you gotta put in the work, and a lot of it comes with just asking for help.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jazzy. This was amazing. This is my first interview recorded, so thank you for your time. Thank you for trusting in me, and thank you for being transparent on the channel.
Of course, happy to be here. And if anybody wants to reach out and talk a little bit more about VC, reach out to me. Find me on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever, you know, social media you have. Happy to talk about it.